All right, welcome back to Blue by 90. I'm Justin, joined by Tanner and Kaylin today. And my light went out just like that. That's not a good sign, boys. It's not a good sign. All right, we're gonna restart that because we can't have it start just like that. That was not good mojo. All right. All right, welcome back to Blue by 90. I'm Justin, joined by Tanner and Kaylin today. It's the game week. We got what, 3 days? 3 days left until the game. Probably by the time you guys are listening to this, 2 days left. Holy smokes. I mean, this is by far the biggest game. I feel like the pressure is just on both sides is insane. And everyone on Twitter is feeling it. Everyone in the Michigan and Ohio State atmosphere is feeling it. How are you guys feeling?
The game we're talking about Michigan versus Memphis, Battle for Atlantis.
Right? Battle for Atlantis. Exactly. Yes, that's
what I thought.
That's a big one. I saw the boys at the water park in the Bahamas yesterday. Yeah, hopefully they can get a dub.
No, of course, the game. Right.
The game.
Yes.
Game.
So excited.
Yeah, man, I've had a pit in my stomach. Like, I try to distract myself as much as possible with whether it be work or, playing some Call of Duty or what, I've been watching a bunch of movies. I watched the Barry Sanders documentary on Prime today, which is incredible. Really good, man. I mean, nothing groundbreaking, but it was just really, really cool to hear from him, and, had Eminem and Jeff Daniels and Tim Allen and a lot of teammates and stuff. So it was just cool to kind of get their perspective. But yeah, man, just trying to keep myself busy. We've got family Thanksgiving tomorrow up in Mount Pleasant on Thanksgiving. So I'm going to be watching the Lions, hopefully go to 9-2. But yeah, man, I get nervous, right? I mean, I feel this way the week of big games, but none like this, right? Like the Penn State game, I'm a little fidgety. I guess is that a word, right? I'm just like, I'm ready for it. But this one, man, is just something different. It is the greatest rivalry in all of sports. You can throw out any pro sport league, any collegiate sport in North America, any other continent, any other country. Like, there's nothing that compares to this game. So it's going to be an incredible atmosphere on Saturday, and I'm excited for it to get here, man. I'm like chomping at the bit.
It's going to be an elite tailgate, I feel like.
The tailgate I can't explain how good the tailgate is about to be. I have had so many people hit me up already that are telling me that they're coming. And I mean, just putting that tweet out, there was like 20 random people on Twitter. Like, I'm not going to say random people because they're followers, aka they're friends of Blue by 90, but everyone's like, yeah, I'm stopping by. I'm coming. So I can't wait. I will be there legitimately. Pulling into the parking lot, I'll be ready to go at 5:45 a.m. It's going to be like probably 19 degrees. I won't care even in the least bit. We'll be cracking a beer pre 7 a.m. for sure. And I really just think that, like, judging by what the feeling was like 2 years ago, it was. I don't know if you as a listener, if you guys have been around the stadium for a Michigan Ohio State game. Even in the past when we really didn't know that we were going to win or we didn't think that we were going to win, it's a different vibe. It's a different vibe for this. Just, the atmosphere is different. You can feel everyone's a little bit like, just feeling it differently. And 2021, I felt like so confident before the game. I don't know why. It was just like some aura around it that was just incredible. And so, I have this same exact feeling right now going into it, and I can't wait for the vibe once we all see each other and everyone's just drinking, listening to music, getting jacked up at the tailgate before the game. I am like dying for that feeling right now.
Dude, I feel we've talked about it. I'm sure we'll do a little bit more in depth on the game itself and the preview, but we talked about this on our Bleacher Report live stream that we did, and I just feel good, man. I just feel a certain way about this game. And I feel a certain level of confidence that I don't know that I've ever felt, right? Because last year you go into it, Blake's hurt, Donovan's got a banged up knee and his hand's messed up, and JJ didn't look great against Illinois. And the year before that, well, we hadn't beat him since 2011. And so it's like, well, can you really do it? And so now, too, you think about all the big-time matchups in this game with the playoffs on the line. In 2021, you finally get one in Ann Arbor. But this time you finally get one of those 11-0 matchups in Ann Arbor. The previous two were in Columbus. So you finally get the game of the century type feeling at the big house in Ann Arbor. Everybody's fired up. We don't need to talk about why, but we're all fired up. If you're a Michigan fan, you have some steam to blow off, man. And I know we all feel that way right now. So I am ready to get after it at the tailgate. I'm ready to do it everything I can inside the stadium to help cause a false start, a delay of game, miscommunication. I mean, how many times? There was a couple times where last year in 2021 where there was like an errant snap, right? To Stroud. So like, I can't wait to try to be a part of the environment and really just try to help the boys out there on the field in between the white lines.
Man, I always feel like this week leading up to the game, like I'm in my head, I'm reading the stats, I'm like listening to all these different takes, and I'm like kind of nervous. And then, you know, I show up to the tailgate, have a couple Blue by 90s, have a couple hails, music starts pumping. Then I'm like, okay, I'm around my people. I'm starting to feel pretty good. Maybe I'm at a watch party if it's a away game. If it's home, you know, we're definitely in the blue lot. Then once that game is broadcast on the TV, then I'm like, okay, like it's happening, it's real. And that's when it just like all really hits me for the first time. So I'm still kind of in that spot right now where I'm like, okay, what's going on?
Man. I'm feeling you exactly. I was actually just texting with Swanky, the man himself, being like, man, I've got the jitters already, man. Like I'm nervous a little bit. Like I just don't know how to feel about this game. There's obviously, you know, outside of it being the, you know, one of the biggest games that is so meaningful just from where they stand at 11-0 and 11-0, there are all these implications outside of the game itself, right? There's Harbaugh is not, you know, not on the sidelines. Ryan Day is, you know, fighting for his life, I feel like, for that job. If he doesn't win that game on Saturday, you know, he could be out of a job. There's all the, you know, the scandal, all the stuff, all the allegations, allegedly, obviously, it's all alleged. But I just think that there's just like so much going on. And I agree with you, Kalen. I just want to get to Saturday where I walk into the stadium and then I'm surrounded by all these Michigan fans. And I can't wait for that moment. I'm going in early, to be honest. If you're coming to the tailgate, come to the tailgate early, and we're going to wrap the tailgate up early because I encourage every fan to get in there for pregame, for everything. Get to your seat, be loud. Not to quote Manny Diaz, but we got to be there early, be loud, and have this place going crazy because I really do think that if we're able to give this team a home field advantage like they've never felt before, Kyle McCord and that team is not ready for that. That's really how I feel about it.
Yeah, and I think real quick to your point about getting there early, and I didn't even think about this until just now as you were speaking, but we get to send off Mike Sainristil, Mike Barrett, Blake Corum, Trevor Keegan, Zach Zinter, all these guys, man. We get to send them off on their senior day.
Yes.
Give them their flowers, right? Get there early, show up, be loud when everybody's introduced, man. I know those cheers for Blake and Mike are going to be probably pretty loud, right? So show up, potentially last game for number 9 in Michigan Stadium. A lot of guys.
Donovan, a lot of guys. You never know.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys. Roman Wilson's a senior. There's a lot of players that are never going to step foot in Michigan Stadium again. And to your point, Justin, we owe it to them to get there and just be as loud as possible to just give as much of a home field advantage as we can because they've earned that. They've gone, we talked about it last night, man. They've gone 12-1 in 2021. They went 13-1 last year and they're 11-0 this year, man. They deserve every bit of accolades and just endearment from the Michigan fan base that we can throw at them. So I think we owe them that to get there early. I plan on doing the same thing. I'd like to get in there around 11, depending on when we wrap up the tailgate, because I want to be there for all the pregame stuff. I want to show my love to all the guys that are going to be seniors and are playing their last game at the Big House.
And some of those guys have been there for a while, right? I'm thinking Mike Barrett throwing that fake punt against like Army in like 2019.
Well, he's a class of 2018 guy. So that's insane. Yeah.
It's wild. Yeah. Or Mikey diving out in Nebraska, right? Like playing wide receiver. Yeah. These guys have done a ton for this program. So yeah, definitely.
I feel like number 19 Mikey and number 0 Mikey are two different people. I really do feel like you could, like, if you had those two guys and he has a number 19 career and a number 0 career. Both those careers are pretty good on their own, let alone it actually being the same physical person.
He was number 5 on offense.
5. He was 19 at first.
Was he? Was he 19 and then 5?
He started at 19.
You're right. He was 19. Yes, because against Notre Dame, he had the bowling ball touchdown.
Yes.
You're right. So he was 19 and then he went to 5.
And then 0.
After,
so,
yeah, because Giles
crazy.
Jackson wanted 5 and couldn't get it. Either way, yeah. He has had a hell of a career on both sides of the ball. He had a great game against Maryland, man. You got to feel like he's coming. He's going to have a big play in this game. He always does.
Same with Mike B, dude. I feel like these guys are, I mean, this is where, it's kind of like you look at it in the NCAA tournament. Once it gets to March Madness, you want the team that has the most experience. That team that has 8 seniors on their squad, right, are the ones that usually make a deep run. Like, that's where we are with this Michigan football team. We have a way more experience than them. Kyle McCord has never played in a game like this at all, right? J.J. McCarthy has. He went to Columbus and got it done last year. These guys have played in a ton of big games over the past 3 years alone, and I feel like that's going to come to our advantage. When things get tight and everything goes crazy, I feel like we've got the advantage in that, and I love that. One other thing, going back to the tailgate too, getting there early and everything, I was texting with the North Peak owner, North Peak Brewing, shout out them, and he's like, how much beer do you have? Like, I want to make sure that you have plenty. And I went like down into my garage. I was like, I have 400 beers in here. And he just texts back, that's not enough. Come. so I'm literally going to pick up more. Like, I'm pretty sure I will have like over 1,000 beers on Saturday. And I legitimately want every single one of them to be drank. So you need to please stop by. Come enjoy a Hail IPA from North Peak Brewing, a Blue by 90 beer. We'll crush them. I need everyone to be a little extra juiced. Little extra juice for this one, just to give us that advantage.
Dude, so today we went to Ann Arbor, my wife and I was just like driving into town, and I just was like, I could feel it, bro. I was just getting amped. Like, I don't even know if I was listening to any music or like if there was anything on the radio, like, but you drive through campus, you drive past Michigan Stadium, you're in Ann Arbor, and you can there's just a certain feeling in the air that this energy that's not there all the time. And I like went to get out of my truck, and I was just like woosah, like let's calm down a little bit here. We've got 3 days till the game.
Thank God none of us have to play in this, because we're literally just going to watch, and we are just in total panic mode already.
Can we talk about the experience watching this game and how tiring it is? Because it's like, dude, like the last 2 years, like 2016, 2017, like when it's a close game, you're just like, oh my God, like you feel like you've gone through battle and you're sitting there watching the game. Like I get into coach mode when I watch it on TV. Like I'll just be bent over, hands on my knees, like watching the TV, like calling shit out.
Do you remember when we were at Pretzel Bell watching the Penn State game, how exhausted we were at halftime?
Dude, I can't do this.
Halftime.
Yeah.
I was legitimately like, oh my God, I need a fucking nap or something. But I mean, it's going to be 100 times more than that, I feel like, this week, because I will be screaming my head off on every single play. That's for sure. And I just, I go back. I posted one of our first drive from the 2021 game at home, and just seeing the pom-poms in that, hearing the crowd noise from that, it gives me goosebumps, because it's like I said, it's something different, man. And I feel like this crowd is going to be insane. And from the get-go, like, I want to go down, score, and then have the place going nuts for Kyle McCord's first play out there, and have him shitting down his leg as he steps onto the field. That's what I'm looking for on Saturday.
Yeah, you can, we talked about it, man, with the environment and how raucous it's going to be. I mean, I don't think it's hyperbole to state that this will be the loudest that this place has ever been. Like, I think that you will be able to hear the roar of Michigan Stadium for quite a while around Ann Arbor, as far as like how far away you are. Like, oh, something must have happened at the game, because you could hear it. all the way, you know, on the other side of town.
I need one of those like blimp things where you can, you know, the camera from angle from that, where you see the crowd and hear them from, you know, a mile away. I need that angle for sure.
Yeah. So like you said with McCord, first time in this environment. Look, Notre Dame's a really nice venue, you know, historic place. I don't know if it's going to compare to what Michigan Stadium is going to be on Saturday. And Michigan Stadium historically is not, as we know, we get a lot of crap for, you know, how quiet it can be. But I don't think there's anybody that's going to this game that's not going to be just juiced, just straight jacked, right? Full of energy. So that, and also real quick on McCord, first time playing in this game, hasn't played great on the road. I think you can trick him. I think you can do some things to confuse him, and I'm excited to see what Jesse Minter has for him, because Marvin Harrison is great. He's a stud. He's going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft in April. But if your quarterback can't get you the ball, then what does it matter? So I'm really curious to watch what Jesse Minter does on Saturday, because I think that's going to be very telling, and I think that's going to be something that can lead to a Michigan victory.
And on that note of the crowd, I mean, have we flipped the script in terms of allowing Ohio State fans in Michigan Stadium during this game? There's been a lot of times in my youth where it was pretty heavily red, right?
Yeah. I definitely think that that's different now. I pray to God, even in 2021, I mean, we still hadn't beaten them in a decade, right? So there was still a lot of scarlet and gray in the stadium for that game. Not by the end of it, though. There was a sea of maize and blue on the field. And so I do think that, you know, the vibe is different now of not selling your tickets as much. You know, we're obviously still in this game. So I think that it's going to be a very, very big crowd for us on the home side. But I want to go back to talking, you know, actually getting into the game as you were, Tanner, talking about McCord, talking about Michigan's defense. You know, I think that the key to the beginning of this game and throughout, and this is what Michigan did the past 2 years, is you make Kyle McCord uneasy. You can't let him get comfortable, especially from the get-go. We have to get to the quarterback early and often in this. And even if that doesn't have to mean you're getting a sack, but you got to get pressure. You got to make him move around in the pocket, not feeling like he can sit back there and wait. If you let Marvin, that's when it hurts you. If you let Marvin Harrison take 5 seconds to get open, he's going to get open. He's too good not to, right? So you have to get back to him. You have to try to get to McCord, and even just throw a hit on him after he throws the ball too. Make him feel like it's not going to be his day back there.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at PFF's statistics from the Michigan-Maryland game, Michigan got 26 pressures on 31 dropbacks for Talia. Now, I believe that's not each. They didn't get pressure on 26 passes, but it was different defenders getting multiple pressures on the same play, maybe a few times to get that number. But that's a really, really good number. And when you look at the grading from PFF, Maryland and Ohio State are around 6 or 7 spots away from each other. So Pro Football Focus is not gospel. Hell, we have a show dedicated to maybe talking about why.
It is when they talk about, when they talk good about us, it is, right?
Yeah. But I think that paints a picture that, man, this defense, you know, and the edges look, there's no Hutchinson or Ojabo on this defense, right? But when you look at this defensive line, Kenneth Grant had a big sack where he crosses the dude's face. I mean, it's 6'5", 330, crosses his face and just like throws Tagovailoa down. Mason Graham had a big sack. Mason Graham on like a twist where he's opening up just a Mack truck lane for his edge rushers to get home. That opened up a sack for it. I don't know if that was Harrell. I can't remember who got the sack, but like this defense is playing so good. Josiah Stewart, I believe, is 3rd in the country on pressure rate at like 22%. So every 4 snaps, he's getting a pressure on the quarterback. This defensive line is elite. This whole defense is really good. I mean, you know, we had probably some concerns Saturday watching some of the things that Tagovailoa is able to do, but I would take Talia Tagovailoa as maybe the 2nd best quarterback in the Big Ten, to be truthful. So it's going to be interesting to see how McCord handles it. You know, he's not going to be a guy that's able to get away from a lot of pressure. I mean, he's already playing on a bum ankle, I believe, and I think he kind of hurt that a little bit against Minnesota. So, you know, Tagovailoa was able to get away from a sack and throw the ball away when Chris Jenkins and I believe Mason Graham were chasing him down. And I don't know if McCord's going to be able to do that. So And Ohio State's offensive line, their weak spot's really in the interior too, right? Like as far as pass blocking goes, the tackles haven't been great in the run game, but they've been better in pass pro. So man, it's just all this stuff that I look at, just it has me feeling confident that if Michigan goes out and plays their game, they're going to win. Like I keep envisioning it, and I'm like going through the scenarios. I'm like, man, this is the same Ohio State team that needed Notre Dame to not have an 11th player on the field. Yep. That player number 11 that should have been on the field would have been lined up over the tackle. He would have been lined up over the tackle on that play. They still barely got the touchdown. It's the same team that couldn't run the ball against Penn State. It's the same team that got ran for over 200 yards on Rutgers. Like I just see all these things, and it's like I just don't see a way that Michigan loses unless they just completely drop the ball.
Well, and the good thing about Michigan too, and drawing from that Maryland game, is that when you needed the defense to make a stop, they were there and able to make a stop, right? And so that speaks a lot to what their capabilities are for the upcoming game, right? Now, I think what does scare me in terms, I guess we are talking a little bit of Ohio State offense, so maybe I'll save this for their defense. But yeah, we'll need to see Minter dial up some blitzes. I would expect to see guys like Mike Barrett maybe in the backfield a little bit this game. So that would be a great send-off for a senior that we all love, right?
Yeah, I definitely think I mean, the one area of concern that I have for this is, we really haven't seen a healthy TreVeyon Henderson in the past 2 years, right? I think on the flip side, Ohio State hasn't seen a healthy Blake Corum in the last 2 years. Even Donovan Edwards was playing with a club on his hand last year, right? Like cast on his hand. So, but I think that, TreVeyon Henderson, if he's able to break some open, then, I think this could be interesting because the last 2 years, they had to do it all in the air. They could not establish the run on us. And that was the difference. And it's the last 21 matchups, right? The team that rushes for the most yards wins this game. So I do think that still favors Michigan in this, but Michigan's going to have to stop the run for sure. And then on the flip side, let's flip to Michigan's offense. They have to establish the run, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Michigan needs to establish the run. And like you said, healthy Blake Corum, that's going to be huge for us. What does worry me is one stat I've been looking at all year has been offensive, defensive efficiency, right? And interestingly, Ohio State's defensive efficiency is better than ours. So what does that really mean? That just means that they're better at getting 3 and outs. Ours has a more bend, don't break kind of style, right? So to me, that can, that makes me nervous.
Yeah.
And like I said, right, I'm nervous early in the week leading up to the game.
Well, and I think like I went back and just watching that, even just that first drive for Michigan in 2021, where they converted multiple 3rd and 2s where they just lined up Hassan Haskins and pounded it down. That is key. You have to get those 3rd and shorts. And to get to 3rd and shorts, you have to get to 3rd and short, right? So you can't have negative plays on 1st and 2nd down. And then on the opposite side of the ball, you want to put them in a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 situation. So I do think we're going to have to be able to, even though I hope we throw the ball a little bit, we're going to have to be able to play like we did against Penn State in that second half, where it's like they know we're running the ball and we still have to get a push off the ball and be able to get positive yardage from it.
I'm going to say it again. You're probably sick of hearing it, Justin, but I've said it multiple times this year now. When Michigan comes up against a good rush defense, they play their best ball on the ground. Like they just have. I called it before Penn State. I said they'd run for over 200. They ran for 230. I'm thinking Michigan runs for over 200 again against Ohio State, because you're going to have JJ in the run game. And I know, he's been a little banged up, but, reports are that he's been looking good in practice physically. He didn't have a limp going to the presser earlier in the week. And he's a kid that's he's willing to lay it on the line, right? Like he is a kid that is for the team and is going to say, I'll do whatever it takes to win. So having him thrown into the run game, having a healthy Blake and Donovan coming into this game, I just have a feeling that they're going to be able to put together a really great game plan with the ground game and be able to move the ball in decent sized chunks. I mean, last year there was a lot made about Michigan not being able to run the ball, in the first half, which obviously they're bringing 8 guys down in the box, maybe 9, maybe having a safety come down 4 yards off the ball. But there were a couple plays, if you guys remember, CJ Stokes might have had a lane, and I think the lights were a little too bright for him. You're not going to have that problem with Blake or Donovan. I expect a big play out of Donovan. I think Donovan's going to have a big-time play that's really going to solidify his status at Michigan. I just feel like he's due, right?
Big game Dono.
Big game Don for sure. Yeah, man, I agree with you. I think that, when I look at Michigan's offense, I mean, we joke about that it was more than just the 5 big plays last year. But when you have the opportunity, that big play is open, you can't miss them. I looked at what JJ did this past week against Maryland, and CJ had that exact – Cornelius was wide open on the exact same play that he ran against Ohio State, right? And you can't miss that one this week, right? When you get a chance for a wide open touchdown like that, you have to hit it. And so that's where, Michigan did that last year, and that was the difference in the game. There were a couple times when Ohio State had a chance for it, didn't convert, or Michigan made a play. I mean, think about Mike Sandersill's pass breakup at the end. That's a for sure touchdown 99% of the time, right? Mike makes an incredible play, and that's the difference in that ball game at that time. So I agree. I think, listen, the kid is unbelievable, and I don't want to be the guy that's putting pressure on him, but the pressure's already there. It's not going to be a difference in what I say. JJ McCarthy has to win us this ball game, in my opinion. The better quarterback on Saturday, I think, is going to win. And it's not because we're not going to use the ground game or not, but like I just said, when the plays are there, you have to make them. And so I think if MSU JJ or earlier in the season JJ is playing, which he was playing really, really well, then we're in good shape. But if he makes some mistakes, then that's where we could get into trouble here.
So my whole thing is, like, we kind of have to scrap the Penn State game, right? 8 attempts, complete 7 passes. And then the Maryland game is like, yeah, I mean, and honestly, I've seen some stuff that you could potentially put that on CJ on that long that should have been touchdown, So he doesn't look right away when he beats his defender, which is kind of a tell for the quarterback of like, hey, I'm going to get this to you. So, but yeah, I mean, even, the Purdue game, he was still, he wasn't the MSU JJ that we had seen, but, still 335, I think like 9 or 10 yards an attempt, like really efficient, really good. So I just have a feeling that this kid's going to come ready to play. And I just think that the Maryland game, they looked a little bit flat, to be honest, kind of hard.
Yeah, it's trap game
to blame them, right? Like it's trap game in between 2 insanely big time competitive games, right?
And I want to say something about that game too. You get out, I think what it was 23-3. I feel like once they were there, that's when they took their foot off the pedal a little bit, which is like very common in that scenario, right? It's like, all right, we feel good, we're rolling. All right, we don't need to just keep and maybe they were trying to keep guys healthy. They were trying not to show their tells, put a lot of film out there, blah blah blah. And that's what happened. And then, it is, people talk about the Big Ten. You still have to go out and win those games every single week. So that's kind of how I felt about that. I don't think there's going to be any question that the guys are ready this week, right? There's, sometimes you worry more about these guys being too tight than too lax in this game. You have to be a perfect balance of dialed in, but you're not clenching and you're not making mistakes because you are just too tight in the moment as well.
Yeah, another part I think that needs to really be dialed in is pass protection. I think we've seen some guys get beat by good edge defenders in the last couple weeks, right? Not to call anybody out, but Ohio State's going to bring it all, right? So
I think you have to have a short leash, right, in that scenario.
Yeah, well, to me that also brings into, like, if you're Coach Moore, you got to see that kind of stuff and say, hey, man, we're just getting beat by this edge defender. Let's bring a tight end over. Let's do something, right? So that goes into some coaching decisions too, which I actually think Coach Moore should be ready for this game. If he's ready for any game, he's ready for this one. So,
well, look, man, here's the thing, right? When you look at the defensive side of the ball, Josh Wallace doesn't have a great game. So what do? They bring in McBurrows at the nickel. They move Mikey to the outside, right? So you have to have the same mentality on the offensive line. I'm sorry. You have to. This is this is the game, man. This is what, like Trevor Keegan said, if we don't win this one, it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. So you have to have a short leash. And I'm sorry, and it's difficult to do, but in college football, where it has become this massive business, you have to have a short leash in that scenario, because Trente looked good. Ladarius is going to be back. They said Miles Hinton's going to be back. I find that hard to believe, but if he's ready, like you have to be ready to make some sort of change if it comes to that. You can't just sit on it for 2 quarters.
I agree. I mean, you don't have possessions to give away because of that stuff, right? Every possession, every play counts in this one. So I think, I agree with you, Kalen. I trust Sharon in that, especially when we're talking about the offensive line. I trust him in either having that short leash and making that decision, or making an adjustment in how they're, going to line up or something as well. But I guess last thing I want to talk about here is Coach Moore. There's no Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines. We all know how important that is and how much of a hit that is to this team. What's your guys' confidence level in Sharon Moore to step up in what is no doubt the biggest game of his life? And Tanner, I said it on Bleacher Report yesterday. There's a chance that Sharon Moore has a 20-year head coaching career after this game, and this still is the biggest game that he's ever coached in his life. That's true. Yeah. What's your guys' confidence level right now?
In Coach Moore is what you're saying?
In Coach Moore, yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of in between, right? For me, I'm like, Coach Moore has a lot on his plate, and that makes it super tough. Now, he's coached 3 games now, and he's won them all. I feel medium plus.
I like that. I mean, listen. I think that he's doing as good of a job as you can possibly ask for, given the scenario. There aren't many guys that have never been a head coach before that could step into what he's done and go out and beat a top 10 team on the road by running it 32 fucking times in a row and be ready for this game, which is the biggest game of the century for Michigan football. So before, I do want to say before this, regardless of what happens, obviously if he wins on Saturday, then he's a king. There's no doubt about that. Absolutely. But, you have to understand the scenario that he's been thrown into. It is a near impossible situation. And so give him some leeway on that. He's going to do as good of a job as he possibly can. And I'll be honest, here's how I feel. I wouldn't take anybody else. There's not another OC in the country or assistant coach in the country that I'd say I want in that situation. I love this man. He'd die for these guys. These guys would die for him. And I'm really confident with him going into this game.
I feel good because Jim is still in the building. Jim is there until Saturday morning when those buses leave for the stadium, right? So if Jim Harbaugh has faith in Sharon Moore, and I know he does, obviously he's the coach in waiting, right? Like we understand that. I think that's kind of known at this point. Like he is the coach in waiting at the University of Michigan. He was hand selected by Jim Harbaugh. He's a guy that's been around the program since 2017. He's been in this game as a coach. He played at Oklahoma. He's been in the Red River Shootout, right? Like he's been in big games, big moments. And I just have a feeling that, look, the last couple games, the instructions are clear, man. Get in, get out, get a win, stay healthy, right? Like there's nothing else there. This game is different. This game is going to be played different. It's going to be called different. It's going to be different tactically. It's not going to be the same thing as Penn State where it's like, well, let's just make sure we keep JJ healthy, right? Like that's not what this game is. So the playbook is there. It's open. I know he's got a lot on his plate as the O-line coach and the OC. That's the only thing. Like if it was just him sliding in and we could have somebody working with the O-line, like an additional analyst come up to be the 10th assistant, sure. But outside of that, he's been the guy all year, man. Like he's been the guy that's been putting together one of the better offenses that I've ever seen at Michigan. Maybe the best. We'll see what happens on Saturday. That'll kind of solidify that for me. But I have a lot of faith in Sharon Moore, and Michigan, even when they've been John O'Korn at quarterback, man, they came ready to play with a game plan, right? Right. The only 2 games that this really got out of hand was 2018, 2019. So Jim Harbaugh, his staff have always come correct for this game outside those 2 instances. So I feel good. I'm extremely excited for this game, man. One thing I wanted to mention about the game and just like how tiring it is to watch. Like a couple of years ago, my Apple Watch was like, "Hey, do we need to call 911? Are you okay? Your resting heartbeat is 58 beats per minute. Now it's at 150." So that's how my body reacts to this game. So we'll see what my Apple Watch tries to do in the big house.
What, 72 hours before the game right now?
No, you were not paying attention because I saw you on your phone.
wasn't.
I'm talking about during the game in 2021.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah. No,
right now,
my beats per minute was like 68. So yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm sweating currently. Like I'm actually sweating. So anybody that's like trying to talk to me at Thanksgiving tomorrow about just like random shit, I'm just like, yeah, I'm just gonna I have to go to the bathroom, and then I just go straight to the cooler or the fridge to grab another beer and then like avoid all conversation if it's not about this game. That's really what it's gonna be.
Hey, tomorrow on Thursday, if you're listening to this on Thursday, hey man, we're gonna watch the Lions get a dub. Friday, maybe do a little shopping, do whatever, get some leftovers in you. Saturday, we're getting after it, man. It's gonna be one hell of a conclusion to the regular season either way. I can't wait, man. It's going to be so much fun.
I love it. I'm rocking my my Anti-Buckeye Social Club hoodie right here. Grab it from the blueby90shop.com. I mean, this is it. This is it, boys. Everyone knows what's on the line, but whoever wins this game is off to the races in terms of where their program is. Whoever loses this game, their program is at a serious crossroads. That is legitimate. So there is so much pressure on both sides of the ball here. I don't know a game before where there's so much pressure that whoever loses, their coach might be fired. And it's not because both teams are bad. It's because both teams are so good and the standards are so high that you can't lose this game. That's an insane thing to think about. So with that, we'll let you guys go.
I have one last. I'm sorry. I have one last thing. Have you guys ever been to St. Elmo's Steakhouse?
Yes.
Are we gonna rendezvous Saturday, December 2nd for some shrimp cocktail? Ooh. Maybe a ribeye at St. Elmo?
I might.
Just wanted to throw that one out there.
See you in Indy, boys. Knock on wood there. Don't clip that. But I would love nothing more to be in Indy the following weekend with the boys again. All right. Are we good now?
That was it. I just wanted to throw it in there. Perfect. I thought I was being slick. Like I wasn't saying anything, but yeah.
I like that. All right. For us, you can follow us at BlueBy90 on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at BlueBy90 Podcast on YouTube and BlueBy90.com. We appreciate you. Go Blue.
Go Blue.
Go Blue.